Alright, so today we're trying out something a little different. This is the ULTIMEA Skywave X70. It's a 7.1.4 wireless Dolby Atmos surround sound system. And yeah, I know, a home theater video on a retro Apple YouTube channel. Bear with me because once we get this thing set up, it'll make a lot of sense. But real quick, I want to give a huge shout out to ULTIMEA for sending this over and for sponsoring this video. Now, we moved here almost 3 years ago, but never really thought about getting a surround sound system. It's like one of those things you try out in like a Best Buy once or twice, but never actually end up getting until, of course, a big box like this ends up at your house. And let's start with the obvious here. This is not your average soundbar. This is a full 7.1.4 surround sound setup. For anyone who's unfamiliar, this means that you get a home theater-like configuration, which is designed with Dolby Atmos content in mind. It's meant to give you that home theater experience for a very reasonable price. This is the X70, which retails for $799. This is also the higher end option, but if you're looking for something a bit more affordable, ULTIMEA has other options as well, like the X60 and the X50. This video, however, will focus on the X70. Now, the setup process was quite easy. The box is a bit heavy, just a heads up, but this is everything that we got. Starting off with the main soundbar, it actually just comes in 3 different pieces, which you can just easily twist together, and I went ahead and set that up on my TV stand. Now, the main bar is also equipped with what I believe are 2 up-firing speakers, which we'll test out in just a moment, but it also comes with a 10-inch wireless subwoofer, which is paired to the main bar by default. Now, the setup here was really simple. You just plug it in and it's going to connect once the main system is turned on, and it was pretty heavy, but the nice thing here is I won't really be moving this thing around all that much, so once it's there, it's not really going anywhere. Inside the box, we also get 2 wireless rear speakers, with each speaker having both up-firing and side-firing audio. This is what gives it that 360-degree surround sound effect. Now, these are meant to be mounted on a wall or placed on a stand, and these are also wireless and come automatically paired, which was really nice to see. Now, the next thing I did was, of course, set it up with my TV. Now, just a disclaimer, whenever you're changing the audio source, it's best to turn off the main system and unplug its power, and then you can change the source itself. I ended up using the HDMI enhanced ARC port, and it really is as simple as plugging it into the TV, powering it up, and selecting the audio source. Now, there's also a couple mounting brackets in here as well. If you want to mount the main soundbar or the rear speakers to the wall, the remote will also need 2 AAA batteries, which are not included, so keep that in mind. But with everything set up, I just want to say the design looks really clean. You've got this matte black finish with the rose gold accents. The subwoofer has a wood crafted texture on the bottom, and there's a clean LED display on the front of the soundbar. And the whole thing just has a very polished and premium feel to it. But when it actually comes to setting it up for the first time, because this is a 7.1.4 surround sound system, it's designed for Dolby Atmos content, but there are a couple things you have to keep in mind. Now, the X70 has 5 main ports on the back. It has the HDMI enhanced ARC port, which I ended up using here and connecting it straight to my TV. It has a regular HDMI port, which is perfect for if you're running, low on ports behind your TV, or if you want to connect something like a TV receiver. It has an optical port, which is like an alternative if you're not planning on using Dolby. It has USB as well as DC in, which is going to be used to actually power it up. Now, Dolby Atmos pass-through is only possible if you're using HDMI enhanced ARC. So you'll want to make sure that your TV has that port. There's usually like a little E symbol next to HDMI, and you also want to make sure that your TV has pass-through within its audio settings. That will make sure they're actually getting full Dolby Atmos content. And what I like here is that there are actually 2 HDMI ports. I can plug in my main TV receiver into the regular port here, and then plug the soundbar from the enhanced ARC port into the enhanced ARC port on the TV. I said ARC a lot, but hopefully that makes sense. And for anyone running Apple TV 4K, if you're plugging that into your TV and running the HDMI enhanced ARC cable to the actual soundbar, you're gonna get Dolby Atmos pass through as well. So if you're an Apple TV user, the setup is gonna work perfectly. Unfortunately, I am a nostalgic Apple YouTuber, so I don't have a 4K Apple TV to test out, but we do have a PS5. I'll get to that in just a second. And by the way, there's an app as well, the ULTIMEA app, which you can find in the App Store as well as the Google Play Store. And this is where it gets really useful. You can control volume, switch inputs, and adjust EQ settings individually, just the level of the subwoofer and each of the rear speakers, which is really nice to see. Okay, so let's talk about how this thing actually sounds, because at the end of the day, specs on paper are great, but what does it actually do First of all, let's talk about movies. The system supports Dolby Atmos, and when it comes to delivering content that natively supports it, the high channels from those upfiring speakers are great. You get 4 upfiring speakers in total, 2 in the main bar and 1 in each rear speaker. You also hear sound coming from above you, not just around you. The subwoofer runs on what ULTIMEA calls Gravis technology. Basically, they built a 40-liter acoustic chamber inside of it, and you can think of it as like a really well-engineered box that's tuned specifically to let the bass breathe without really getting muddy or boomy. So when an explosion hits or a drop lands in a song, it's clean and controlled and not just loud, which can be harder to pull off than it sounds, pun intended. But there's also a feature called X Up Mix, and what this does is takes non-Dolby content like regular TV shows, YouTube, anything really, and it up mixes it into immersive surround sound. And there's actually a dedicated button for it on the remote as well, and you get it for basically everything. I tested this out with a few things and it made a noticeable difference. Now I know you guys are waiting for some audio samples, so here they are. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. All right guys, so this first test here is going to be with X Up Mix turned off. I'm going to turn up the volume here just a little bit. And just a regular YouTube video from Audio Library. I do feel a little bit of the bass, so I am going to turn that down just a little bit right there. I do apologize for the focus, but let me go ahead and turn on X Up Mix. So that's with X Up Mix turned on. And let's go ahead and turn it off. Let me know if you guys can tell the difference. Now, there are 6 EQ presets on the remote. You get standard, cinema, music, voice, game, and night. I ended up using cinema for movies pretty much exclusively. Standard is solid for just casual watching, and voice mode is actually really useful if you're watching something with a lot of dialogue. It just kind of helps bring all the voices forward. And speaking of music, I connected my iPhone 13 mini, of course, via Bluetooth. I opened up Spotify and I just started playing music, and the music EQ mode is really well tuned. It handles everything cleanly. The highs don't really get harsh even at higher volumes, and the bass stays controlled rather than just booming all over the place. I have an audio sample here as well. Take a look. All right guys, let's do a quick audio test right here. Real quick, I just want to show you that the TV is turned off, so you can still use the actual soundbar even if the TV is turned off, as long as it's connected to Bluetooth, of course. So let's go ahead and click play. Let me know what you guys think. I believe the bass is set to +2, so let's see how this sounds.
You're an angel, that's for sure. Don't listen down for who you are. Gonna like it when you're on the floor. And my baby whispering. Used to have fun, now I'm bored. Do I miss you? Yes, the chorus.
Alright, so I'm going to pause there real quick. I don't know if you guys noticed, but every time I turn the volume down and up, it actually decreased quite significantly. So that's one thing to keep in mind whenever you're using the volume buttons on your phone. It will increase the volume substantially on the actual speaker itself. So I highly recommend you guys use the actual ULTIMEA app or the remote that's included with the soundbar. And for anyone who is curious to see which presets I had set during this test, it was set to music mode with bass at approximately +2, everything else was 0, and X Up Mix was also turned on as well. All right, now let's talk about specs for a minute, because under the hood, there's actually something called NeuroCore, which is ULTIMEA's own processing engine. It's a triple-core DSP, or digital signature processor, which is paired with a dual core MCU or microcontroller unit running at 24 bits and 192 kilohertz. That gives it 2000 MIPS of processing power, which in plain terms means it's handling the surround sound processing, virtual high channels, and room calibrations in real time without really breaking a sweat. And the amplifier is made with gallium nitride, which is the same technology that's made its way into modern fast chargers today. The benefit here is that it runs up to 98% more efficient, generates 40 to 50% less heat than a traditional silicon amp, and has 8 times faster transient response, which basically means the audio is more accurate, more dynamic, and cleaner even when you're pushing the volume. And the wireless connection between the subwoofer, rear speakers, and main bars also run on dual 5 GHz channels. That's specifically to minimize interference and dropouts. In all my testings, I had 0 dropouts, and I walked between them and I didn't really notice all that much. Now, the peak power output is rated at 980 watts across the full system, and the subwoofer claims to go down to 20 Hertz. That's at the floor of what humans can actually hear and feel. So when it says you feel the bass, they're not exaggerating. So who is this actually for? Honestly, it's for the person who just wants a real home theater upgrade without building a full AV receiver setup. If you've been running TV speakers for years and you want to level up without pulling cables through walls and buying separate components, this is a very clean solution. The setup is simple, the app is actually good, and the sound is genuinely impressive, especially at this price point. You're getting a 7.1.4 Dolby Atmos surround sound system, a setup that would cost you significantly more if you pieced it all together yourself. Honestly, for the use case this is designed for, which is home theaters, HDMI enhanced ARC is honestly the way to go if you're planning to use this for Dolby Atmos content. And also, you do need some real estate for this as well. You need a place to actually keep the subwoofer, and you need somewhere to actually put the rear speakers behind you or behind where you're sitting. So it might not be the right fit if you're getting this for like a small apartment, in which case you could also look into some of the other options that ULTIMEA has on their website. But big thank you to ULTIMEA for sending this out and making this video possible. If you want to check out the Skywave X70 for yourself, I'll have the links down below. I'm Rohit, this is iClassic. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.